Hey everybody, it's Stu from Tier 1, and we're going to continue our discussion today regarding the aerobic system. We're going to do it a little bit differently with regards to a slide format, which is basically me talking over this slide in front of you the whole time. So bear with me. But yeah, this is obviously part three. We've kind of introduced you to the importance of the aerobic system so far, but it's really good at this point. I think it's really vital at this point to see where the aerobic system kind of fits in with the other two main energy systems called your alactic and your anaerobic lactate system. So, as previously mentioned, your aerobic system forms the foundation of pretty much everything. It's a simple fact of life that we need oxygen to survive, function, perform, and recover. So we need to be able to utilize oxygen. The better we can utilize it, the better we're going to be in sport, the better we're going to be in life. And one of the biggest mistakes made in the fitness industry and the fitness world is to neglect the importance and not truly understand the function of the aerobic system. Not understanding this really leads to misunderstanding, glaring errors, and poor results, quite frankly. So, another common misconception is that because a lot of sport, particularly team sports, combat sports, and Olympic sports, etc., involve a series of repeated, sort of high-intensity, explosive efforts, what we call repeated anaerobic efforts, is that all training should be performed this way. So, just because somebody like an Olympic sprinter, for example, just because they need to be fast for that in their sport, that they should only train to be fast. Couldn't be further from the truth, quite frankly. Think about it, say, like we say, boxing, mixed martial arts, your Olympic sprinting, and such. All of these sports, they really bring about thoughts of highly explosive work, and one could be forgiven for thinking that all these guys do, and all these guys do in their training, like we said, is to work to their absolute maximum every session and bring on this kind of sort of, well, I hate this term, but lactic acid burn. I mean, we need to forget all about lactic acid, but that's a topic for another day. And like I said, the truth in their training is very, very different, particularly at the elite level. Going back to that lactic acid, sort of just going off topic for a second, it's really emerging now that lactate may not even be your enemy. So this sort of lactic acid or this high blood levels of blood lactate, it's in fact appearing to be a vital component to performance. It's always produced to some extent, lactate, no matter what intensity you're working, and the evidence now is that it can even be used for energy. So we need to kind of come away from this, or we appear to need to be coming away from this sort of whole lactic acid myth. Yeah, so going back on topic, sorry. With regards to when we work at these high intensity efforts and that, we know that we produce fatigue, like the alactic system, the anaerobic lactate system in this slide in front of you. We know that they can only work for a very limited duration. So your alactic system, for example, genetics obviously predisposed to this, but 10 to 12 seconds maximum, and that's raw power, that's real high explosive power, but you can only sustain it for sort of 10 to 12 seconds, depending on genetics, training levels, etc. Out of condition, it's going to be considerably less. And your anaerobic lactate system, sort of 60 to 90 seconds. So think about sort of the 400-meter sprints and stuff. You really start to see them on that straight, start to gas and everything. So it's really important though that you realise, and looking at this slide, you can instantly see that your aerobic system is always working. You can really see it in the background behind the anaerobic lactate and the alactic system. It's always working to some extent, okay? Its time frame, it can go for hours and hours and hours. It's by far and away your biggest supplier of energy, but it's always working, okay? And there's a reason for that, especially when you're sort of like high intensity efforts and everything. It's your aerobic system that replenishes you, okay? It's the aerobic system that really sort of clears away all the bad stuff that accumulates from these fatigue heavy energy systems and stuff like that. And it's your aerobic system that helps you to recover from this. It's your platform for performance, it's your platform for recovery, and it's your platform for health. And that's why it's so important as an athlete or as anybody in everyday life that you actually utilize your aerobic system to its true potential. And again, sort of going back to obviously the myths of the aerobic system, and undoubtedly one of the biggest reasons as to why the aerobic system gets ditched is this myth that it's only needed if you're an endurance athlete. Okay, so if you see a lot of like sprinters, like high explosive athletes and stuff, thinking or kind of saying to you, look, I don't need to train my aerobic system, and if I train my aerobic system, it's going to make me slower. Okay, it's like, no, if you have a well-developed aerobic system in balance with your sport and the power and the power output that is needed for your sport, you're going to recover quicker. So you're going to be able to train and be fresh a lot more in your sessions, etc. Like I say, this myth that the aerobic system will make you slower is simply not true. And there's a kind of like few facts that we like to kind of band out here. And what if we were to tell you right now that if you were to perform a high intensity bout of exercising lasting for just 1 minute, would it surprise you that your aerobic system would contribute more than 50% of the total energy for that? Okay, so 50% of high intensity exercise the aerobic system is contributing. It's pretty much not making you slower, then, is it? It's definitely helping. Take your aerobic system away, and half your performance goes away, or more than half. Okay, so it's a pretty significant amount. And the fact of the matter is, the vast majority of sports out there are in fact mostly aerobic in nature. Okay, you're like going back to this slide here, you can see that your aerobic system is always involved. So it's really important to grasp that. So no matter whether you're a sprinter or whether you're a footballer, a combat athlete, a swimmer, your aerobic system is always involved, and it's definitely always involved as part of your recovery. So it's really, really important that we train this, and it's really important that we grasp this, because one of the biggest things we're seeing out there is obviously this HIIT trend, this high intensity interval training trend and stuff like that, and people thinking that that is the only way to train, and they're doing these consecutive bouts of high intensity interval training day after day, not realizing they're missing a vital factor, which is your aerobic system that really helps to replenish, restore, and revitalize you, so that you can go again, but also actually contribute in all of your energy system, your energy production. And really, the take-home message here is that training sort of anaerobically, so training utilizing your alactics or anaerobic lactate systems, yes, they will ultimately help you become fatigue resistant, but they are fatigue heavy systems. So ultimately, once you've breached your aerobic system and you start relying on your anaerobic systems, these are your alactic and your anaerobic lactate, you'll quickly fatigue very quickly regardless. Like, look at it again. Alactic, 10 to 12 seconds before it burns out. Anaerobic lactate, you've got 60 to 90 seconds before you fatigue. So training solely at high intensity will bring about some positive changes, undoubtedly. Yes, you can improve them. However, if you want to become this sort of performance machine that can work for an extended period of time, recover quickly, and ultimately feel good throughout, and recover quickly so you can go again, then you need to develop your aerobic system. You will need to include aerobic conditioning into your training, and it will not make you slower. It will make you better. And just to put another angle on this as well, so when developed properly, your aerobic system can help prevent you from ever delving into deep, murky waters of overtraining and injury. I mean, I hear people see these days, they say there's no such thing as overtraining, you're not overtraining, you're under recovering. Well, it's your aerobic system that helps you recover, okay? And overtraining, overreaching, it's kind of not even up for debate now. We know from the research, we know from sort of speaking to conditioning experts in the industry and seeing sort of like gold standard studies in that, overtraining is definitely a thing, okay? Stress management, overtraining and everything, it's definitely a real thing. It's a real thing, it exists, okay? So, but it's your aerobic system that helps you recover. So it's your aerobic system that can actually play a pivotal role in preventing overtraining and injury, okay? So your aerobic system operates at lower levels of intensity than its anaerobic counterparts. So when operating aerobically, you're placing lower levels of stress on your body, and you're still actually stimulating your body to positively adapt and respond accordingly. And obviously the major beneficiary of the aerobic system training is your cardiovascular system. Your efficiency and performance improves, your recovery all improves, which ultimately means you're able to tolerate higher levels of stress, which makes you more resilient. Therefore, your potential for overtraining and injury is lessened, which means you can continue training consistently, and it's this consistency that gets you results, okay? If you're constantly just hitting it hard all the time, not recovering, placing loads of stress on your body, overtraining, you're gonna develop some injuries. You're going to have to take some time out, whether to albeit have a rest or through injury, okay, and that's all going to impact upon your performance and your health, okay. So to summarize then, guys, there are three energy systems that the body calls upon. So we're going back to the slide right in front of you. So you've got your alactic, your lactate, and your aerobic systems that provide you with energy, provide you with power. Okay, if you look at the graph, it becomes abundantly clear that your aerobic system is always working, always, it never stops. Even when your anaerobic systems are the dominant provider, your aerobic system is always working behind the scenes to replenish energy stores, remove waste products produced as a result of the sort of highly, like the power systems, but obviously they're fatigue heavy. So the anaerobic reactions that they use to create the energy, your aerobic system is always working behind the scenes to deal with that and help you recover. Okay, and obviously this is yet another reason why your aerobic system is so important for athletic performance in any sport. Okay, it's just about getting the balance right. So just a quick 101 then back on the aerobic system to finish with. So first and foremost, your aerobic system is by far and away your biggest supply of energy, okay? If you make reference to the above diagram, so like the one you're looking at again, it becomes very clear that your aerobic system is always working. I cannot emphasize that enough, okay? Even if you're heavily utilizing the other two anaerobic energy systems, your aerobic system is always working, which is why you need to train it. Your aerobic system uses oxygen to provide you with energy, whereas the anaerobic systems do not. Okay, and as a result of this, and a result of its ability to utilize oxygen, your aerobic system can provide sustained energy for exercise and recovery. Okay, therefore, if you can maximize the potential of your aerobic system to enable it to provide you with energy at higher and higher intensities, so you can widen the power output and really maximize the potential of your aerobic system, you will delay the point at which you need to start delving into your fatigue heavy anaerobic systems, which is obviously our next topic in part 4. And it obviously you'll start to realize once you've seen part 4 that you can become more durable, more powerful, and more explosive for longer and recover much more quickly just by training your aerobic system to deal with this and getting the balance right. So there's so much to be gained from this. So I don't want to carry on too much, guys. So we'll end it there, and obviously part 4 will be coming up. Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.